Chapter 853. Departure. The five-colored clouds radiated with a gentle and magnificent light that flooded the entire sky. It spread out grandly in all directions, enveloping a radius of 100,000 kilometers from the initial 5 kilometers before stopping. The light shone on the surface of the sea and dyed the water rainbow. The entire world seemed to be filled with the 5 colors as if it was a dream. Jian Chen floated in the sky. He stared excitedly at the colorful clouds in the sky and murmured, "He broke through. Grandpa broke through successfully. He has finally overcome the seal in his sea of consciousness and reached Saint Ruler." Afterward, Jian Chen turned into a faint blur, shooting toward 3 Saint Island with lightning speed. He quietly guarded outside the cave to protect his grandfather. At this very moment, a dozen or so figures soared from below 3 Saint Island, and they flickered with the light of special attributes. They were the residents of 3 Saint Island who had already reached Heaven Saint Master, and they were clearly alarmed by the appearance of the rainbow clouds in the sky. Other than them, close to 100 figures flickered at the foot of 3 Saint Island. They were Earth Saint Master residents who could not fly, and they all used various techniques to travel through the forests and hurried toward the top of the mountain. Whether it was the Heaven Saint Masters flying in the sky or the Earth Saint Master traversing over land, they all stopped as soon as they approached the mountain peak. Afterward, they all bowed courteously towards the mountain top and said, "This fisherman of the island wishes to see the island mistress and the 2 saintesses. May I ask just what is happening regarding the sudden phenomenon in the sky?" These people all carried expressions of extreme respect. To them, the mistress of the island and her 2 disciples were like gods. They were sacred and inviolable. This was because 1,000 years ago, 3 Saint Island was still an ordinary island. The fishermen inhabitants were normal and ordinary people, with no connection to the Tianyuan continent. They lived lives of solitude and did not know how to cultivate at all. Even if there were experts who passed by from time to time, they would receive no attention at all. However, ever since the heavenly enchantress settled here, the lives of the fishermen had changed. Not only did she pass on the method of cultivation, she even directed them and assisted their cultivation. As a result, the residents of the island were freed from their ordinary lives, embarking on the path of obtaining great power as fighters. Meanwhile, the heavenly enchantress and her 2 disciples naturally became divine gods to the residents. For this reason, the originally ordinary island was named 3 Saint Island. With a thought, Jian Chen suddenly created a transparent barrier around the top of the mountain as he guarded the cave. He said, "You can leave. Don't worry about the phenomenon in the sky." Jian Chen's voice was not loud, but all the fishermen around the mountain heard it clearly. Hearing this unfamiliar voice, the Heaven Saint Master fishermen all became stunned. Immediately, a brave person asked, "May I ask who Senior is?" "All of you leave. You don't need to pay any attention to the phenomenon in the sky." Xiao Qian's voice appeared from the cave, clearly heard by all the fishermen. "Yes, Saintess." Only after hearing Xiao Qian's familiar voice did the fishermen finally leave. However, each of them were extremely skeptical. Clearly, this was the first time they had ever seen these rainbow clouds in the sky. At the same time, over 20 elders of the Radiant Saint Master Union sat cross-legged in a secret room in the headquarters at Mercenary City. They were casting a secret technique to search for the Saint artifact. In the 4 years since the Saint artifact had been lost, they had worked together to cast the secret technique to scour the continent in search of the artifact's presence from time to time. They would not even miss the ocean. Although they ended in failure every time, they did not show any intentions of giving up. Meanwhile, the news that the artifact was lost had been kept a secret by the Union and the 3 great clans. It had been concealed perfectly. Extremely few people knew about it, but they were all told to stay quiet about it by the 3 great clans. This was because as soon as the Union collapsed, the entire empire would suffer a loss. Suddenly, all 20-odd elders snapped open their eyes at the same time. They all revealed expressions of joy. "We found it. It's in the ocean. We found the precise location of the communication jade on Yang Yutian. I never thought that Yang Yutian would keep the communication jade on him. Fantastic. We haven't found the presence of the artifact, but we found the communication jade instead." The whereabouts of the communication jade will definitely be Yang Yutian's location. We need to go there quickly. Contact Elder Jia immediately. Get him to rip open space and create a space gate to the ocean. He'll come with us. We must reclaim the saint artifact. The rainbow clouds lasted for 6 whole hours before slowly dispersing. A while later, the surroundings recovered its peace. Ha ha! Shortly afterward, a loud series of laughter resounded from a cave on the mountain peak. Changyang Zhu Yunkong excitedly walked out from it in long, white robes. Breaking through to Saint Ruler, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's bearings also underwent a great change. Although he was still an old man, his haggardness had disappeared and he seemed normal again. His face had a healthy glow and he was in high spirits. Compared to his sickly appearance from before, he seemed like a completely different person. I've finally broken through. Never would have thought that I, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, would have a day where I reach Saint Ruler, Changyang Zhu Yunkong said excitedly. The joy and emotions he currently experienced had already reached the absolute limit. Congratulations on reaching Saint Ruler. You don't need to suffer pain like in the past anymore. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu walked out of the cave with their zither in their hands. They both congratulated Changyang Zhu Yunkong with smiles. Grandfather, congratulations on your breakthrough. Jian Chen also came up to congratulate his grandfather. He too was filled with joy for saving Changyang Zhu Yunkong's life. It's all because I have such a great grandson. If it weren't for grandson's dragon saliva, I probably would not have been able to survive for another 30 years. Changyang Zhu Yunkong was emotional and his gaze toward Jian Chen was filled with gratitude. Grandfather, now that your problem has been temporarily resolved, I wonder what you want to do in the future? Jian Chen asked. When Jian Chen mentioned this, Changyang Zhu Yunkong gradually calmed down. After a period of silence, he said, so many years have passed and I don't even know how well the Changyang clan is doing now. I left the clan previously in search of a method to break through. Now that I have broken through, it's about time for me to return. Xiao Qian said on one side. Changyang Zhu Yunkong, Master said your talent is rather great. When you were just a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master, it was enough for the laws of the world to descend by themselves. In the future, you will definitely improve extremely quickly in your cultivation. But you must keep in mind that the seal in your mind has only been temporarily suppressed. It has not been resolved completely, so you must not power up too quickly. Otherwise, you will only be faced with a similar pain in the future. Changyang Zhu Yunkong nodded prudently, showing that he had understood. He clasped his hands at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. I thank you for looking after me for all these years. I wonder where the island mistress is? I would like to see her and personally thank her for saving my life. No need to do that. Our mistress is currently in seclusion. It's best if you don't disturb her for something like that, Xiao Yu said. Fair enough. But I will always remember the mistress's kindness for saving me forever. If there is the chance in the future, I will definitely return it several times over. Changyang Zhu Yunkong said with determination. After that, he looked toward Jian Chen and said, Grandson, grandfather misses the Changyang clan. I want to return immediately. You should come with grandfather. No, grandfather, I still have important matters to attend to. I won't be going back to the continent with you, Jian Chen said hurriedly. He did not dare to return to the continent as of right now. That's fine. Since you have things to attend to, I'll be returning first, Changyang Zhu Yunkong said, before bidding farewell to the group. He left all by himself. He had already spent too much time away from the Changyang clan. He missed the people there very much, so he left in haste as soon as he recovered. With Changyang Zhu Yunkong's matter resolved, Jian Chen no longer needed to stay on the island. He also bid farewell to Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Ladies, I still have matters to attend to, so I can't stay on the island for too long. I shall be leaving. After conversing with Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu some more, Jian Chen found where the heavenly enchantress had gone into seclusion with his powerful presence. He directly flew over there. The heavenly enchantress went into seclusion in one of the caves at the back of the mountain. Currently, the cave was tightly closed, blocked up by a huge rock door. Standing before the door, Jian Chen became slightly mixed with emotions. After some hesitation, he pulled out a large pile of dragon's saliva from his space ring and placed it gently on the ground. I know this dragon's saliva is very helpful to you. You need it more than me. I'll only keep 10 of them from all of the ones obtained from Fantasy Star Ocean. I'll give the rest to you. After he placed down the dragon's saliva, Jian Chen left silently. He flew toward the faraway distance, but from the very start till the end, the heavenly enchantress never appeared. She did not even say anything. Jian Chen flew off the island with mixed emotions. Afterward, he expanded his powerful presence, immediately enveloping a radius of 5,000 kilometers, finally finding Nubis, who was 1,000 kilometers under the ocean. Nubis immediately shot through the ocean and arrived in the sky above the region where he had gone into seclusion. He immediately began to radiate with a powerful aura which spread outward in all directions. It immediately caused the calm ocean surface below him to turn stormy. Bang! Suddenly, the sea surface beneath him exploded. A figure radiating with a powerful golden light shot out from the sea, accompanied by a powerfully vast and boundless presence. Haha, kiddo Jian Chen. You've finally come out. If you didn't come out, the great Nubis, would have gone into the Fantasy Star Ocean in search of you. Chapter 854. Arrival of the Union. Haha, kiddo Jian Chen. You've finally come out. If you didn't come out, the great Nubis, would have gone into the Fantasy Star Ocean in search of you. The golden light around Nubis was dazzling, radiating far and wide like a sun. The surrounding space trembled greatly due to the vast and boundless energy emitted from his body. Jian Chen stared at the shining Nubis in interest and laughed softly. Nubis, looks like you've reaped quite the harvest from secluded cultivation in the past few years. I can feel that your strength has completely exceeded the 7th heavenly layer. The light around Nubis slowly faded and revealed the figure beneath. Perhaps it was due to his great increase in strength, but the golden robes on Nubis seemed even shinier. It vaguely seemed to be covered by a golden glow. Nubis's face was filled with joy. He traversed several hundred meters in a single step and arrived before Jian Chen and directly threw a punch at his shoulder. Nubis laughed. Jian Chen, I never thought that just from a mere trip to the Fantasy Star Ocean, you'll come back without your purity. TSK, looks like the harvest you reaped from the journey is quite great too. Tell me honestly, did you hook up with that demoness? As a beast of antiquity, Nubis's senses were much more powerful compared to humans. He could tell with a single glance. Jian Chen purposefully avoided this question and said, Nubis, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about you instead. How is it? You must have improved greatly with a few years of secluded cultivation. Of course. Nubis was excited. I've absorbed around 70% of the hidden essence in that old snake. That hidden essence contained the old snake's comprehension of the mysteries of the world. I've fused with them completely, turning it into my own power. Right now, I'm a peak class 7 magical beast. In the words of you humans, I'm equivalent to a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. I'll be able to break through to class 8 in one go if you give me some more time and I absorb the remaining hidden essence from that old snake. When he heard this, Jian Chen jumped in shock even though he had mentally prepared himself beforehand. Nubis had increased his strength from the 3rd heavenly layer to the 9th heavenly layer in 4 short years. This speed of improvement was so great that it even made him tongue-tied. His improvements in this time paled in comparison to Nubis. Jian Chen, I can feel that you've grown much stronger too. Looks like you've gotten your hands on quite some stuff from this trip to the Fantasy Star Ocean. Nubis stared at Jian Chen deeply and sniggered. Alright, let's not talk about this for now. Nubis, we've stayed here for quite a long time already. The people on the Tianyuan continent should be expanding their search into the ocean soon. We should leave here quickly. The earlier we get to the location of the sea race, the earlier we get to safety, Jian Chen said. Alright, let's go to where the sea race is first. If that other powerful old snake on the beast god continent calls on a great group of people to deal with me, the great Nubis, will be in danger. As soon as he finished speaking, Nubis's face froze. A light immediately exploded from his eyes and he glared up ahead. The space where Nubis was looking at began to distort violently before it was ripped open. A space gate suddenly appeared and an old man in simple clothes stepped out. The moment Jianchen saw this old man, his gaze froze. He was not unfamiliar with him. It was the old man he had first seen wiping the tables in the Radiant Saint Tower. Behind the old man, figures constantly stepped out. First, there were fighters in various attires, a total of 8 saint rulers. Only afterward did a group of white-robed Radiant Saint Masters appear, totaling at over 20 people. All of them bore a shiny purple badge on their chests. They were actually all Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters, and among them was the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union and the Great Elder. Only after great difficulty had the Union found Jianchen's whereabouts. In order to retrieve the Saint artifact successfully, they had basically come with their full force. "Yang Yutian, I've finally found you." An old voice boomed from the group. A white-robed old man walked out at this time. He was the president of the Union. Compared to a few years ago, the president seemed much older. His face was filled with wrinkles while his expression was haggard. In these years, the matter about the Saint artifact had tortured him quite some bit. The president looked toward Jianchen with extremely mixed emotions. His heart was filled with bitterness. Once upon a time, he had accepted Jianchen as his disciple without the slightest hesitation after he found out about his talent. He even planned to choose a successor for the union between him and Yun Tian. In the days that followed, Jianchen's behavior only became more outstanding. He grasped the forbidden Arte God's descent with his power as a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master and slaughtered over 30 Heaven Saint Masters all by himself on Fragrance River. It shook him greatly, and at the same time, it consolidated his idea of raising Jianchen to be the future successor of the Union. He had even begun to view his other disciple, Yun Tian, as a chess piece to temper Jianchen. He was filled with hopes toward Jianchen. However, he never thought that the Jianchen he had placed high hopes on possessed another identity. Not just that, he even took away the Saint artifact of the Union, almost causing the entire Union to come crashing down, falling into a state beyond recovery. This pained him to the extreme. Right now, he saw his disciple who had bore his high hopes once again. The president's heart experienced both love and hatred. He loved Jianchen's unprecedented talent and hated Jianchen's following actions, as well as the fact that he had almost brought the Union to utter damnation. Yang Yutian, Jianchen, Changyang Shangtian. I don't know how I should refer to you. The president sighed gently. His face was filled with exhaustion. President, it's best if you call me Jianchen, Jianchen said. All right, I'll call you Jianchen. Jianchen, is the Saint artifact on you? The president asked. After some deliberation, Jianchen replied, President, the Saint artifact is indeed on me, but I can't give it to you right now. Yang Yutian, the Saint artifact belongs to the Union. You actually tried to take it for yourself. So much for the Union treating you the way we did in the past, for you to do something like this. We really have been treating you too nicely. The ninth elder could not help but curse. Jianchen, the Saint artifact is extremely important to the Union. Think about how we once treated you. You really should return it to us, said the Grand Elder. His voice carried the trace of pleading. Grand Elder, President, it's not that I don't want to return the artifact, but the artifact has a spirit and it's already taken me as its master. What? The artifact has taken you as its master? How is that possible? The president paled from shock. He clearly knew about the artifact spirit's existence. A golden light shot from the center of Jianchen's eyebrows, landing directly in the middle of his palm. It formed a golden, palm-sized tower. When they saw the golden tower, skepticism appeared in the eyes of the group. Although the artifact had been with the Union for countless years, there were not many people who had seen its true form. None among them had seen it. Even the president was no exception. Artifact spirit, explain it to the president yourself, Jianchen said to the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit abided to Jianchen's words, immediately communicating with the president through a sliver of a thought. The president's expression immediately became courteous. As the president of the Union, he knew extremely clearly just what the artifact spirit was. It was equivalent to a saint emperor. Even though that was only the case in the artifact space, it still carried a great force of deterrence. A while later, the president's courteous expression disappeared. He sighed at the sky while his face was filled with helplessness. Afterward, his gaze toward Jianchen became even more complicated, with deep shock sandwiched in between. Grand Elder, President, I know exactly how important the artifact is to the Union. Without it, the Union will not have any more origin energy. But I can help you solve that problem. Jianchen pulled out a purple medallion from his space ring and continued, Grand Elder, this was the medallion you gave me all those years ago. I've stored several dozen strands of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force within it. It should be able to deal with the imminent problems the Union faces. As he spoke, Jianchen tossed out the purple medallion. It stopped before the Grand Elder and he took it up and sensed it. A sliver of joy immediately sprang up on his face and he said, there really are several dozen strands of origin energy inside. With that, slivers of joy appeared on the faces of the elders too. Jianchen continued, I know this won't work out in the long term. There will be a day where the origin energy will be consumed entirely, but 50 years in the future, I will fill up the purple medallion again. During this period of wait, I hope you can collect some more objects that can store origin energy. Jianchen, since the Saint artifact has already taken you as its master, you should go. My Union will not be troubling you, though I hope in 50 years' time, you will do as you have promised and replenish the Union's supply of origin energy. Sighed the president. Since the artifact had already accepted him as its master, this was the president's only choice. If the artifact had not done that, they could still restrict Jianchen's actions and search through his space ring for it. But now, this was impossible. Once the artifact took a master, they could only kill Jianchen to get it back. However, they did not have the courage to do that at all. This was because if they killed Jianchen, it was equivalent to the Union completely offending the Changyang clan and the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans, as well as the Arctic Ice God Hall that even the Protector clans feared very much. Chapter 855. Whereabouts exposed. Reaching an agreement with the people of the Radiant Saint Master Union, they felt right afterward. They did not mention any excessive requests, unwilling to offend Jianchen too much. With the departure of the Union, Jianchen and newbies also left and traveled toward the territory of the sea race. Toward the back of 3 Saint Mountain, a heavy stone door slowly rose up, revealing a pitch-black cave. With a series of gentle footsteps, the purple-dressed heavenly enchantress emerged slowly with her zither in her hands. When she arrived at the entrance of the cave, the heavenly enchantress stared distractedly at the several dozen stalks of dragon's saliva on the ground silently. Her eyes were mixed with emotions. These grasses were all obtained by Jianchen through his relationship with the golden divine dragon Ruijin. Every single stalk approached 1,000,000 years in age. On the Tianyuan continent, they were priceless treasures. Jianchen had actually only kept 10 of them for himself and gave the rest to her. It moved the heavenly enchantress deeply once again. A while later, she seemed to return to her senses. The zither of the demonic cry disappeared from her hands and she slowly squatted down. She extended her white, elegant hand to carefully collect the grasses off the ground. Afterward, she entered the cave once again. A dozen or so fist-sized luminous pearls were lodged into the ceiling of the cave, shining with gentle light. The heavenly enchantress sat with her legs crossed on a huge jade rock, her expression dejected. Meanwhile, she could not help but think back to all the things that had happened in the Fantasy Star Ocean, as well as everything she had experienced in the space formed by the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. She also thought back to the words of the great human expert, Mo Tianyun. Jianchen, you may have taken my body, but you saved my life at the same time. Should I be hating you? The heavenly enchantress muttered softly. She seemed rather despondent. Since she was too emotional when she had just woke up, she did some reckless things. She wanted to kill Jianchen as an outlet for her hatred. But afterward, when she slowly calmed down, she also thought through it gradually. Jianchen had no other choice when he did it as well. If he did not do that, both of them would have died there, never to be able to see the outside sun ever again. Additionally, she had gained great benefits despite losing the most precious object a woman had. Her strength skyrocketed after absorbing the energies from the balancing of yin and yang and the thin supreme yin qi on the surface of the rock. She had reached a level of strength that even she herself found incredible. At noon on the next day, a space gate suddenly appeared above Three Saint Island. An ordinary-looking, middle-aged man stepped out of it with Bai Jian, who seemed much more aged. The man's gaze was cold, without the slightest emotion. His face was filled with a condescending air, as if there were extremely few things in the world that he would actually not look down upon. Bai Jian stood beside him and yelled toward Three Saint Island, "Heavenly Enchantress, come out. My father has personally come this time. Is this how you are going to treat your guests? Senior Bai Yifei has come personally. I have failed to welcome from afar, so please forgive me. However, I am currently in the middle of secluded cultivation. I am unable to receive guests personally, so please forgive me, Senior Bai Yifei. Shao Qian, Shao Ke, receive Senior Bai Yifei instead of me, please." The heavenly enchantress's voice boomed in the sky, but the origins of it could not be found from the sound alone. The voice seemed to carry a great charm, able to bewitch people. As soon as Bai Jian heard it, a sliver of bewilderment appeared on his face. He had almost lost his composure. A gleam of light immediately flashed across Bai Yifei's eyes. He said in surprise, "Heavenly Enchantress, I didn't think your strength would increase so quickly. You've actually broken through from Saint Ruler to Saint King." "What? Dad, what did you say? The Heavenly Enchantress is a Saint King now?" Bai Jian looked at his father in disbelief. He was astounded. "Correct," Bai Yifei said gruffly. Even he struggled to believe the speed at which the Heavenly Enchantress was improving. "Impossible. When we met in the Holy Land of Mercenary City a few years ago, her strength was the same as me, a 6th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. How could she reach Saint King from the 6th heavenly layer in just a few short years? That's impossible." Bai Jian was filled with incredulity. Shao Qian and Shao Yu flew up from Three Saint Island. As soon as they heard their master had already reached Saint King, they were overjoyed. Afterward, they invited the two guests onto the island with an extremely courteous tone. Bai Jian and Bai Yifei remained in the sky without moving. Bai Yifei said, "Where is that person who injured my son? Are you speaking about Master Jianchen? Master Jianchen left long ago. We too do not know where he has gone." Shao Qian got straight to the point. "What did you say? Jianchen?" Hearing this name, Bai Yifei's expression changed instantly. They immediately began to shine with interest, changing from the indifference of before. He pulled out a drawing from his space ring and said, "Look at this carefully. Is this the Jianchen you're talking about?" Shao Qian and Shao Yu accepted the drawing and looked at it together with doubt. Afterward, they nodded simultaneously and Shao Qian said, "Correct, he's Master Jianchen." "Senior Bai Yifei, why would you have a drawing of Master Jianchen?" Shao Qian's voice was filled with curiosity. "You don't need to worry about that. Tell me honestly, just where is Jianchen?" Bai Yifei was stern. "We really don't know." Shao Qian and Shao Yu were both clueless. Seeing how Shao Qian and Shao Yu did not seem to be lying, Bai Yifei did not trouble them any further. He said gruffly, "Bai Jian, let's go." With that, Bai Yifei turned around and immediately set up a space gate. Without saying anything else, he disappeared into the space gate as he pulled Bai Jian with him. Distance was not a problem to Supreme Saint Kings. They only needed a single step to traverse millions or even tens of million kilometers. Bai Yifei ripped open another 2 space gate one after another to return to the continent. Afterward, he immediately met up with his good friends that were extremely close to him, reporting to them about Jian Chen appearing in the ocean. His good friend was a great elder from the Yuan sect of the 10 great clans. He was a Saint King too, and when he heard this news, he was immediately astounded. "Bai Yifei, are you serious? Jian Chen's really appeared in the ocean?" The great elder became excited. "I'm absolutely certain. I've already gotten authentication for it and he's even injured my son," Bai Yifei said confidently. "Correct. The person who injured me is indeed in the drawing. He looks exactly the same. He must be Jian Chen." Bai Jian also saw the drawing of Jian Chen and swore solemnly. "Fantastic. I'll go contact the other great elders right now. We'll pursue him in the ocean immediately," said the great elder just as he was leaving. "Wait." Bai Yifei stopped the great elder. "Ling Yuanzi, even just one of us can deal with Jian Chen easily. There's no need to mobilize everyone. Also, if the great elders of your Yuan sect all move out at the same time, it will probably raise some suspicion among the other protector clans. At that time, it'll be hard to know who the winged tiger god will end up with. The most important thing is that Jian Chen has already left 3 Sane Island. I myself have no idea exactly where he's gone. If you take too much time, he'll run quite far away. The difficulty of the search will increase too. If it weren't for the fact that I did not know a long-range searching technique and could not find Jian Chen, I would have grabbed him long ago and delivered him to your Yuan sect. Brother Bai Yifei is right. My Yuan sect owes you a great favor for this time. We can't drag this out. Let's move out right now." The great elder Ling Yuanzi and the father-son duo immediately slashed open the space around them and headed toward the ocean. Jian Chen and newbies currently hurried along through the use of spatial force high up in the blue sky above the ocean. They formed vague blurs, directly traveling in the direction of the sea race's territory. According to my inherited memories, the sea race should not be far from us. There should just be another few thousand kilometers, newbies communicated through a mental message. "Newbies, we already have some rough understandings of the strength of the sea race. They're much more powerful than the Tianyuan continent. We need to be careful when we get there. We must not cause too great of a commotion or it'll be very difficult for us to survive." Jian Chen lectured sternly. "I know. You don't need to tell me this. As outsiders, we'll face the rejection from the native sea race for sure. If we deal with it badly, we might even become public enemies of them, hunted down by the entire sea race." Newbies also understood the good and bad. It was the first time he had seemed so careful. At this very moment, Jian Chen's complexion changed suddenly. With his much more powerful presence, he could clearly feel an extremely obscure ripple rush past the two of them. "Oh no, some experts have discovered us. If it's not by Jian's father, then it's the experts from the continent. We need to increase our speed immediately," Jian Chen said seriously. With that, Newbies' complexion changed too. He swore. "This must be because of the Union reporting to the 10 protector clans. Those bastards, they want to use the 10 clans to eliminate you and retrieve their saint artifact. Jian Chen, your comprehension of the mysteries of the world is too low. I'll carry you and run." Newbies grabbed Jian Chen's hand and his strength as a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler exploded without holding back at all. He pushed the mysteries of space to the limit and disappeared into the horizon like he was teleporting. Newbies was extremely fast, but he was still not faster than Saint Kings in the end. The space before them began to distort violently and a space gate formed quickly. Immediately, a vast and boundless aura radiated from inside. This aura compressed space, causing the surrounding area to become viscous. Both Jian Chen and Newbies immediately felt like they had become submerged in mud. There was great resistance to their movements. "Jian Chen, I want to see where will you run this time?" An old voice boomed. The great elder of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi, and the father-son duo walked out and blocked their path. Chapter 856. God descends again. The light in Nubiz's eyes flickered violently. He quickly flashed past by Ife and the great elder of the Yuan sect, while his face bore a sternness he had never shown before. He growled, "Two Saint Kings. Kiddo Jianchen, we're screwed this time. We can't flee." Jianchen's complexion also became extremely ugly. The dragon-slaying sword appeared in his hand immediately, and his presence underwent an overwhelming change. He radiated with a soaring presence as if he was a drawn sword, already ready for a fight to the death. Even though he clearly knew he was not the opponent for two Saint Kings, Jianchen did not stand down. Bai Yifei looked at Jianchen with a sneer and said with disdain, "Jianchen, with your mere strength as a saint ruler, you still want to fight with us? You overestimate yourself." "Jianchen, I am a great elder of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi. I do not want to harm you. All I hope for is that you can hand over the winged tiger god. As soon as I receive it, I will leave immediately and not cause you any trouble." Ling Yuanzi spoke up too, hoping to convince Jianchen to hand over the winged tiger god. Currently, Jianchen was extremely special. Even Ling Yuanzi himself did not want to offend Jianchen unless he had to. Even when ignoring the fact that he was a member of the Protector Changyang clan, he also had a connection with the Pure Heart Pavilion, and most importantly, his sister was actually the Holy Maiden of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. They were a force that the Yuan sect was extremely fearful of. The Ice Goddess Hall had existed for an extremely long time. Even in the age where the four supreme champions who had surpassed Saint Emperor appeared, no one knew just how long the Ice Goddess Hall had existed. It was an extremely powerful force that even made the clans fearful in the ancient times. Even though they had never interfered with the matters of the continent, their presence still functioned as an extremely great deterrent. "It'll be impossible if you want me to hand over the winged tiger god," Jianchen said coldly. He did not leave any grounds for negotiations. Ling Yuanzi's face darkened. "I've already given you a chance. If you still want to be so stubborn, I can only offend you." Ling Yuanzi cut to the chase and immediately moved against Jianchen. The winged tiger god was extremely important, connecting directly with the fate of the Tianyuan continent. He could not spare this even if he had to offend the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. Ling Yuanzi grabbed at the air. With Ling Yuanzi's powerful control over space as a Saint King, Jianchen's surroundings froze immediately and turned into something like extremely tough ice. It even began to produce crunching sounds. Jianchen and Nubies were both affected, immediately trapped there and immobilized. Ling Yuanzi was very confident in his own strength. He did not believe that two mere saint rulers could break free from his imprisonment of space, even if one of them was a ninth heavenly layer saint ruler. "The winged tiger god is not on you. You must have found a spatial artifact that can store living organisms. The winged tiger god must be hiding in there. If that's the case, allow me to look through your space ring," Ling Yuanzi said. At this very moment, an aura of destruction exploded from Jianchen. Surging chaotic force caused the space around him to tremble. He had actually broken free from Ling Yuanzi's frozen space. "How is this possible? You've broken through my locked space with your strength. What is this power?" Ling Yuanzi became astounded and stared at the chaotic force that surrounded Jianchen's body in shock. He could feel weirdness and power from the chaotic force. It was a great force he had never seen before. Jianchen did not give Ling Yuanzi any time to react. The dragon-slaying sword shone brightly with a hazy light, stabbing toward Ling Yuanzi with lightning speed. The sword carried a devastating aura that quickly cut along the short distance. You dare to confine me, the great newbies? So what if you're a Saint King? Allow me to witness the strength of a human Saint King today. Newbies also recovered his ability to move. He immediately cried out, throwing a fist that radiated with a blinding, golden light toward Ling Yuanzi. Ling Yuanzi was still a Saint King after all. He may have found it extremely unexpected for two weaker people to break free of his frozen space, but he did not become panic-stricken. With a wave of his hand, vast saint force surged from his body and instantly formed a wide shield before him. As Jianchen's sword and Nubis' fist collided with this shield, a great rumble was immediately produced. Violent ripples of energy and terrifying winds swept through the surroundings, wreaking havoc, causing space to distort and the seas to surge. Although Jianchen's chaotic force was very special, it was still not very pure in the end. It was only equivalent to a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. When both of their attacks struck Ling Yuanzi's shield, it did not even budge, solidly receiving the attacks that were nearly their full power. Bloody hell, the disparity between Saint Ruler and Saint King is just too great. I can only handle 1st heavenly layer Saint Kings at most with my strength as a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. That old man's beyond the 1st heavenly layer. I can't do anything to him. Newbies sent a mental message to Jianchen, while the two of them were sent flying backward from the energy ripples. This Ling Yuanzi's strength is too great. We can't harm it at all even when we work together. Leave quickly. We need to reach the sea race as fast as we can. Foreign Saint Kings won't be able to enter their protective barrier, Jianchen replied to Newbies. I'll take you as I flee. That way, my speed will be much greater. Newbies did not hesitate at all. Without becoming wrapped up in the battle, he pulled Jianchen as he used spatial force to flee into the distance. He traversed several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye. Want to flee? Do you really think it'll be that easy? Bai Yifei sneered. He fused with the surrounding space and immediately disappeared with a step. When he reappeared, he had already covered several dozen kilometers, appearing before Jianchen and Newbies. He blocked their path. If I let the two of you escape under my watch, what dignity would I still have left as a Saint King? Stay put. A cold light flickered in Bai Yifei's eyes. With a direct push of his palm, vast world force condensed turbulently and formed an invisible enraged dragon that rushed at the two of them. The pair felt like they were struck viciously in the chest by a great mace. Even with their powerful bodies, they were unable to resist it. A mouthful of blood immediately spurted from Nubis' mouth. He paled, already heavily injured. Meanwhile, Jianchen was slightly better off due to the protection of his golden silk mail. However, it was still painful for him. His organs were shaken up violently and blood surged about. Both of them were sent flying far away. They only regained their stability after traveling over 10 kilometers. Jianchen, we can't escape. What do we do? Nubis' complexion was downcast. Jianchen said nothing while a light flickered about in his eyes. After a short moment, he gritted his teeth and cried out, Saint Kings really are powerful. Even when Newbies and I work together, we struggle to resist a single strike from you, but you are not invincible. Today I, Jianchen, will use my strength as a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler to heavily injure you two great Saint Kings or even directly slaughter the two of you. Haha, Jianchen, you're a conceited, arrogant guy. I want to see how you can heavily injure two great Saint Kings with your strength as a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Bai Jian seemed to have heard the most hilarious joke in the world. He could not help but chuckle aloud, while his gaze toward Jianchen was filled with disdain. A smile of disdain also curled up on Ling Yuanzi's face. Jianchen, since you're so confident, then allow me to witness just what trump card you have to boast like this. Just what ability or technique do you have to threaten a 5th heavenly layer Saint King? Bai Yifei also smiled in disdain. His gaze toward Jianchen was as if he was looking at a joke. Even if a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler cast a Saint tier battle skill, all they could do was threaten Saint Kings of the 1st or 2nd heavenly layer. Both he and Ling Yuanzi were in the 5th heavenly layer. They could look down on 7th heavenly layer saint rulers completely. They were as weak as ants in their eyes. Determination appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. Without saying a word, he had already returned the dragon-slaying sword to his space ring. His 2 hands formed a seal before him, and a strand of radiant saint force origin energy immediately dispersed from his sea of consciousness. It formed an invisible energy that pervaded the surroundings as if they had fused. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes as he maintained the weird seal with his hands. He raised his head up high, directing the center of his eyebrows at the sky. Suddenly, the light in the surroundings became brighter. The blue sky was enveloped by a layer of clouds with unknown origins. The clouds were snow-white and radiated with a dim light. It dyed the world snow. Even the blue sea was dyed completely. I offer 500 years of my life to cast the forbidden art. This descent, Jian Chen murmured with his eyes closed. He immediately felt the vitality in his body leak away quickly, combining with the arte that was charging up. Even Jian Chen found it a little hard to endure losing 500 years of vitality in one go. He immediately felt like he was out of power and extremely weak. The arte that was charging in the sky began to take shape quickly after Jian Chen infused 500 years of his life into it. The white clouds that enveloped the surrounding space glowed brightly, radiating with a blinding light. It completely outshone the sun and caused the entire world to be enveloped in a snow-white dye. At that very moment, that white light seemed to be the only thing in the world. Crap, he's casting the forbidden arte of radiant saint masters, God's descent. God damn it, how did I forget that Jian Chen was a radiant saint master too? Ling Yuanzi paled in fright. He had finally become serious. This Jian Chen is actually a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. The rumors say that Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters casting the God's Descent is enough to threaten Saint Kings, and he's even used 500 years of his life. This God's Descent will definitely be terrifyingly powerful. We can't let him cast it successfully. Interrupt it right now. Bai Yifei's previous calmness and confidence had also disappeared. His tone became rather hurried, and he simultaneously attacked Jian Chen together with Ling Yuanzi. They hoped to interrupt the arte in its charging up phase. Chapter 857. Heavily injuring 2 Saint Kings God's Descent. At this very moment, these 2 words were slowly pronounced by Jian Chen. His voice seemed to be filled with infinite mysteries, reverberating with the world. This plain voice directly pierced the 9 heavens and beyond. A visible ripple quickly expanded in all directions with Jian Chen as the center. Wherever it passed by, space would freeze instantly. Even the 2 great Saint Kings, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi, were immobilized. Other than them, newbies and Bai Jian were affected too. They also became locked up in the frozen space and unable to move. At that very moment, everything became silent. Air stopped moving, time stopped flowing, even the surging seas beneath them became extremely quiet. The white light in the sky shone brighter and brighter, becoming more and more blinding. A vast pressure from the surroundings appeared, as if it originated from the 9 heavens. The pressure seemed to be from a god, descending from the sky with a lofty aura. It deeply shocked the 2 Saint Kings. Arg! 2 long howls enveloped the surroundings. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi had actually used their powerful bodies to forcefully break free from the restraints. They did not hold back at all, rushing at Jian Chen with soaring auras. They wanted to interrupt his art. At this very moment, a great pillar of white light descended from the skies. It completely enveloped a radius of 50 kilometers, and the laws of the world in that region began to immediately distort violently. In that very moment, the region encased by the pillar of light seemed to become its own, independent world. The expressions of both Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi greatly changed. They felt that they had completely lost their powers as Saint Kings. Their control over the mysteries of space and world force seemed to have vaporized completely in this moment. They could not feel it at all. Other than that, they became restrained once again. This time, the restraint was not space but an indescribable, weird energy, as if it was the power of laws completely unfamiliar to them. Jianchen closed his eyes and maintained the hand seal, floating in midair just like before. At that very moment, his soul stretched toward infinity and completely fused with the space enveloped by the white pillar of light. A wondrous feeling rose from the bottom of his heart as if he had already become God, a prominent, omnipotent God, able to control all life within this region of space. He was the absolute ruler of this world. Boom! With a violent rumble, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi broke free from the restraints of the laws with their powerful strengths once again. Surrounded by powerful and tremendous saint force, they struck out viciously at Jianchen with their palms. Jianchen slowly opened his eyes. Right now, he could clearly feel his greatness as if he had really fused with a god. It made him feel that the two fifth heavenly layer Saint Kings were not necessarily undefeatable. Jianchen slowly raised his right hand and pushed forward gently. A white, visible ripple shook the space as it expanded in the direction of Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. This strike was not from chaotic force. It was not from any power he controlled but the special powers of the laws in the domain. The powers of the laws collided with Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's hands and immediately produced a violent rumble. Their expressions changed suddenly and they shot backward with lightning speed. On their palms, a blood-red mark had already appeared. They were injured by the power of the laws. Jianchen coldly stared at the two of them. He felt like he had really fused with a god and gained a terrifyingly powerful strength. He now controlled everything. He extended a finger at the two of them and murmured gently, "Annihilate." With a single word, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's clothes immediately turned to dust. Cracks also appeared on their skin and they bled out with bright red blood. They seemed like cracking pottery. Both of them were greatly shocked. They did not hold back at all and with a violent roar, vast saint force poured from their bodies. A robust energy barrier blocked the destruction from the power of the laws. Right now, they had each entered their own domain. Without their abilities as Saint Kings, all they could use was the saint force that they had not touched for a long time. This god's descent is too terrifying. If it were first or second heavenly layer Saint Kings who ended up in this place, they would definitely be doomed. Bai Yifei, let's attack Jianchen with our full strength. He can't last for long. Ling Yuanzi growled. Shortly afterward, a palm-width curved blade appeared in his hand and he directly attacked Jianchen with it. He had already used his saint weapon. Bai Yifei brandished his saint weapon at the same time. His strength as a fifth heavenly layer Saint Kings burst out without any restraint, shooting toward Jianchen as a lightning bolt. Jianchen remained expressionless. All he did was extend a finger and immediately, inexhaustible light quickly condensed around it. It was all the power of the laws. Jianchen pointed gently twice. Two specks of white light immediately shot toward the pair with lightning speed. These lights were completely formed from the power of the laws. The white specks of light directly passed through their saint weapons, breaking through their defenses formed from radiant saint force to directly strike their bodies. It passed through both of them and left behind two bloody, thumb-sized holes that spurted with blood. Injured by the power of the laws, their injuries were definitely not as light as it seemed. They immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and became sheet white. Crap, that attack is illusionary yet corporeal. It's impossible to guard against. This arte is just too terrifying, Bai Yifei cried out. He had already become a mess, no longer bearing the demeanor from before. At this very moment, another two specks of power of the laws shot from Jianchen's hand, directly traveling toward the center of their eyebrows. Their expressions changed greatly. The center of the eyebrows was where the origin soul resided. It was the most important part. If they suffered any injuries there, they would suffer an unendurable blow as well. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's foreheads were instantly wet with cold sweat. They pushed all their strength into fleeing, but at that crucial moment, they became immobilized by the invisible power of the laws once again. Spurt! The power of the laws broke through their external defenses and struck the center of their eyebrows accurately. Afterward, it broke out from the back of their heads and punched a hole through their brains. Arg! The two of them immediately produced chilling cries. Clutching their heads tightly with their hands, their faces were filled with pain. The origin souls of Saint Kings were extremely powerful. Wiping them out was not very easy. The power of the laws had pierced through the center of their eyebrows and heavily injured their origin souls, but it did not wipe them out. The injury to their origin souls caused them overwhelming pain. Without their control, the saint force that guarded their bodies slowly dispersed. Without the saint force, the power of the laws that seemed to be able to annihilate everything appeared once again. It wreaked havoc on their bodies mercilessly and caused every part of them to crack constantly. It covered them with blood. If they were not powerful Saint Kings and instead Saint Rulers, they would not be able to resist this terrifying destructive power at all. They would instantly turn into dust and be destroyed. It would be impossible for them to last this long. The surface of Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's bodies had cracked completely. Their flesh turned into streaks of dust, currently being eaten away bit by bit. Arg! Jianchen, I will break your god's descent. Saint Tier battle skill, sky upholding finger. Ling Yuanzi roared painfully. The saint force within him quickly began to surge, all condensing around his right index finger. Afterward, he pointed out with it. Immediately, a huge, 10-meter-long finger suddenly appeared. It radiated with powerful energy ripples that caused space completely formed from the forbidden radiant arte to tremble violently. It was like it was cracking as it was unable to endure the pressure brought on by the finger. As soon as the huge finger condensed, it rushed toward Jianchen with an unstoppable presence. Wherever it passed by, the snow-white world would immediately shatter and reveal pitch-black cracks in space. The power of the finger was enough to destroy this world. It exceeded the limit that the region of space could withstand, annihilating it. The giant finger locked onto Jianchen's presence, enveloping the entire surroundings. Jianchen was unable to flee. All he could do was devote all his strength to resisting it. He became stern, using all he had to control the power of the laws to resist the Saint Tier battle skill cast by Ling Yuanzi. Boom! With the collision of the laws and the finger, a great rumble immediately shook the region. In that instant, the region of space turned to blackness and Jianchen's radiant arte was also broken through by the finger. He was sent flying backward as he vomited blood, while the powerful energy brought on by the god's descent disappeared too. With the arte broken, the surrounding space recovered to how it was before. The violent energy from the Saint Tier battle skill wreaked havoc midair and caused violent winds to blow through the surroundings. Furious tsunamis formed on the surface of the sea, raising waves as high as several hundred meters. Jianchen. Seeing Jianchen fly backward from afar, newbies cried out in shock, immediately flying over to catch him. Leave quickly. Jianchen became as pale as snow. His expression was drained and he spat out 2 words with great difficulty. He had failed to cast the god's descent completely, as it was forcefully broken through halfway by absolute power. It made Jianchen receive great backlashes too. Additionally, he had been hit with a small portion of the Saint Tier battle skill and was greatly injured. Newbies did not waste any more time speaking, immediately fleeing toward the distance as he carried Jianchen. Jianchen, you've injured my origin soul so greatly that it'll even be difficult to recover completely with 1,000 years. How can I let you leave? Ling Yuanzi was disheveled and covered in blood, currently in a complete mess. His hatred for Jianchen had already reached an unprecedented level. Jianchen had heavily injured his origin soul, something that was extremely difficult to heal. He would no longer be able to make any more breakthroughs in the future. His cultivation would come to a halt if he could not rejuvenate his injured origin soul. Jianchen, I want to obliterate you. The bloody Bai Yifei also roared angrily. He pursued in soaring rage. He had almost descended into madness. Bai Yifei did not have an organization as great as the 10 protector clans supporting him, so it was even more difficult for him to heal his injured origin soul. It was possible that he could not rejuvenate it at all in this lifetime. From now onward, it was extremely possible that he would remain as a 5th heavenly layer Saint King for all of eternity. Even though they were both heavily injured, they possessed terrifying strength. Along with the fact that the Radiant Arte was broken, they had regained their abilities as Saint Kings, catching up to newbies instantly. They directly struck Newbies' back with a palm strike, causing him to vomit blood with no end. Enter the Saint Artifact. Jian Chen's voice was extremely weak. Soon afterward, a white light suddenly appeared and it enveloped the two of them before it sucked them away. A fist-sized golden tower hung in the middle of the air, before turning into a golden streak of light, beginning its flight. It's useless no matter where you hide. I will take that tower back to the clan. I'd like to see how'd you leave it then. Ling Yuanzi seemed to have become an enraged lion. He prevented the Saint Artifact's escape by restraining it with the surrounding space before grabbing it. No matter how the artifact struggled, it was unable to break free from Ling Yuanzi's grasp. Chapter 858. Goddess of the Sea Race. The Saint Artifact trembled violently in Ling Yuanzi's hand. It wanted to break free, but no matter how it tried, it failed. Ling Yuanzi's hand seemed like a steel claw that grasped the artifact tightly. Disheveled, Ling Yuanzi stared viciously at the Saint Artifact in his hand. He laughed aloud. I never thought that this would be a treasure that can store living people. From today onward, this belongs to me. Jian Chen, you injured my origin soul. I'll take your treasure as compensation. The trembling of the artifact became even more violent. It began to radiate brightly with golden light, but it was something against us 10 protector clans. Although the artifact to ruin what we're doing, the strength of a Saint Emperor within the artifact became confident, its and external abilities were too weak due to innate limitations. Arrived before Ling Yuanzi with rulers would be able to restrain it. He looked around cautiously. Let alone supreme the person who had attacked secretly was just too powerful. I want to see how you're able to escape from me. Had no confidence when I take you back to the clan, victory. I have all the methods in the world to deal with you. At this very moment, sneered Ling Yuanzi suddenly appeared 100 meters away from the three of them. He trapped the Saint Artifact in his palm before he swung out with his other hand. And seemed to be in her 20s. He directly cut open the space fell like a waterfall to her feet. While her face was illusionary, very blurry, and unable to be seen boundless properly. Energy appeared abruptly. She radiated naturally with a unique aura. With an aura of destruction. With holiness the and nobility of as if she could not be offended. It traveled too quickly, people preventing Ling Yuanzi from reacting at all. Their hearts. It had also locked onto Ling Yuanzi's presence. Surprised he was unable to dodge it all. Heavenly layer meanwhile, a terrifying energy from the soul permeated the sky and caused them to be filled with an urge to prostrate opened by Ling Yuanzi. It shocked both of them very much to feel this. He no longer suppressed his injuries and struck out with all he had toward the powerful energy that surged in his direction. His saint weapon exploded with light and great energy rippled mightily in the surroundings. Ling Yuanzi cried out. Afterward, he swung down with it. Already begun to slip away. Caused the space to be annihilated and revealed of this mysterious woman. Boom. Human, Ling Yuanzi was not into the territory of two attacks collided. Race. He was wounded immediately once again. The illusionary woman's pearl-like vomited blood slightly. His complexion became calm and cold, now without any emotions. The Saint Artifact took advantage of this opportunity to break with a gruff from Ling Yuanzi's grasp. Are you a Saint Emperor turning into a streak of golden light and disappearing into the vast ocean below? The woman's voice was as calm as ever. Astounded. What? The person who had attacked secretly was just too terrifying. And Ling Yuanzi their strength completely exceeded his, backward, which caused waves of emotion roared through their hearts. Ling Yuanzi struggled as he stayed afloat in the sky. In 3 seconds. He quickly pulled out a piece of jade from his face ring before he crushed it without any hesitation. She was now nowhere to be seen. Only then did he greatly relax. However, her appearance had brought tremendous shock to both Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. It stunned them on the spot, their minds ceasing thought. When they had returned to their senses, they no longer dared to stay any longer. What Genshin? What winged tiger god? Thoughts such as those were all cast aside by them. They left as if they were fleeing for their lives. The sea goddess was a supreme champion that had surpassed Saint Emperor. In the current age, who could be her enemy? Not long afterward, Ling Yuanzi united with the people who had rushed over from the Yuan sect. He described everything that had happened in detail to the other great elders. What? The sea goddess's
This piece of news
was just like a
Hearing
crack
Ling
of thunder
Yuanzi's
to them.
report,
The
it was
great elders
unbelievable.
all paled
Let's
in
head
fright.
back immediately
They were
and
shocked. Quickly call on the other protector clans and mercenary city to discuss this matter. The people from the sect quickly left the ocean along with Bai Yifei. Currently, the saint artifact hung in the air as it radiated with a faint golden light in a dark cave. When it had escaped from Ling Yuanzi, the saint artifact had descended into the depths of the ocean, before finally passing through a powerful barrier and entering another world. Afterward, it hid in a cave. Although the world was located under the sea, it was enveloped by a very powerful barrier that kept all the seawater out. It created an independent space for the world under the sea. Within the saint artifact, Jian Qin and newbies accepted the origin energy of radiant saint force from the artifact spirit and were recovering. The two of them were enveloped by a milky white light as their injuries healed quickly. This time, the attacks they had received were from Saint Kings. The injuries were extremely heavy and it took newbies an entire day to recover. As for Jian Qin, his body still contained some residual energy from the Saint Tier battle skill as he was injured by it. His condition was even worse and he struggled to heal himself. That Saint Tier battle skill really is powerful. If you want to completely heal the wounds left behind by it, you need several strands of origin energy. Just one will not be enough. The artifact spirit stood before Jian Qin, pouring several strands of origin energy consecutively into his body. It slowly healed the wounds left behind by the Saint Tier battle skill. The origin energy controlled by the artifact spirit was much more powerful than Jian Qin's origin energy. With him helping out, the effects would be greater. After consuming several strands, Jian Qin finally recovered completely. However, his loss of 500 years of life from casting the forbidden radiant arte could not be recovered no matter what he tried. As a result, Jian Qin recovered from his injuries, but he clearly still felt weak. Artifact spirit, how is the situation outside? As soon as he recovered, Jian Qin asked the artifact spirit immediately. Master, we're completely safe now. We've reached the sea race, said the artifact spirit. With that, Jian Qin finally relaxed slightly. He gave out a soft sigh. What a pity! Even with 500 years of my life as the price, the god's descent was unable to kill the two of them. Jian Qin, you should know where to draw the line. They were both 5th heavenly layer Saint Kings and were heavily injured by you. Additionally, they've received wounds to their origin souls where it's extremely difficult to recover from. They've paid an extremely heavy price and in the end, you even forced that old man to cast his Saint Tier battle skill, said newbies. If it weren't for the battle skill destroying my god's descent, I had the confidence of killing the two of them. If I used a millennia of my life as the price, I'm confident I could have forcefully taken on his Saint Tier battle skill and then killed them afterward, said Jian Qin expressionlessly. He felt rather regretful. He was so close to killing two great Saint Kings this time. 8,000 years of life. Newbies immediately leaped up and stared at Jian Qin wide-eyed. Kiddo Jian Qin, do you think your life is too long? 500 years is already terrifying enough and yet you still want to pay 1,000 years of your life to kill two Saint Kings. Why would you even do such an unworthwhile thing? With your talent, you'll probably reach Saint Emperor in another 1,000 years. At that time, you'll have the power to kill your way through the protector clans. Why must you be so wrapped up in the moment? Jian Qin stood up and said, Newbies, let's not talk about this for now. I plan on going into seclusion for some time after this. Alright, I'll go into seclusion too. When I absorb all the hidden essence left in that old snake, I'll be able to reach Saint King successfully, said newbies. At that very moment, the artifact spirit's expression changed slightly. He said, the senses of the sea race is just too powerful. Master, a few people have already discovered our existence and are currently hurrying over. With that, Jian Qin's face darkened slightly. Looks like it's not the time to go into seclusion right now. Jian Qin, let's go out first. The secret of the Saint artifact cannot become widespread. We definitely can't let the people of the sea race discover its existence. Once any news of it is leaked, it'll cause quite some trouble, said Newbies. Afterwards, Newbies and Jian Chen appeared outside with a flash of white light in the gloomy cave. Jian Chen stored the artifact away before they concealed their presences and walked outside. Arriving outside the cave, Jian Chen unconsciously looked upward. The sky was a deep blue, consisting of seawater that was forcefully blocked by the barrier. The barrier shone with a gentle blue light that illuminated the entire world. The territory of the sea race was dyed blue by the light from the barrier. Where the sea race thrived, the temperature was rather low. The outside sun could not be seen at all, while some energy of the 6 attributes were lacking. The water attribute was extremely powerful, several times denser than on the Tianyuan continent, while the other attributes were much weaker. The fire attribute was not present at all. "Is this the world of the sea race?" murmured Jian Chen as he gazed at the unfamiliar world. Although Newbies knew that the sea race existed from his inherited memories, it was the first time he had come here. Naturally, he was extremely curious too, constantly moving his head to look around. Far away, over 10 figures appeared suddenly. They radiated with a water-blue light as they sped toward Jian Chen and Newbies in the air with the assistance of water-attributed energy. Chapter 859, World of the Sea. A few Class 6 magical beasts have come. Newbies focused his attention on the dozen or so figures who flew over from the distance. Resided. So they were
magical
still
beasts,
extremely
but humanoid
unfamiliar with the sea
organisms
race.
who have evolved
They
from
had
sea
no
life,
idea what a sea
corrected
soul
Jian
warrior
Shen.
was.
He could
How
tell
many
with a
stars
single
they were
glance
or
that
what
they
were not
represented.
humans or
If they
magical
answered
beasts.
it incorrectly,
There's
it
not
would
much
draw
information
suspicion
regarding
from
the
people.
sea race in
Seeing
my
how the
inherited
two of them
memories.
were unable to answer
However,
this question,
these members
the
of the
young
sea
man from
race
behind
really
could
are
not help
intriguing.
but speak out.
They're
Haven't
basically
you
the
become
same
sea
as us
soul
magical
warriors
beasts,
yet?
but they don't need to
No,
reach Saint
we
Ruler to
indeed
gain
have
a
not
human
become
form.
sea soul
They're
warriors,
much better than us
replied
magical
Jian Shen.
beasts.
With that,
Sighed newbies.
all the young men behind
people
the lady
arrived
revealed
before the two of them
expressions
very
contempt.
quickly.
Their
They stopped
gazes
20
toward the
meters
two of them
away,
were filled
while
with
their expressions
unconcealed
were
disdain.
filled with caution.
Skepticism
There were
appeared on the
13 people
lady's
in
face,
total,
clearly
12
not
young
believing
men
what
and one
Jian Shen
woman.
had said.
The young men
She was
were all of
talented and
average
practiced
appearance,
the innate
while the woman
spirit
was
opening
slightly
technique
dashing.
of the 8
She
great sea
exuded a
race
refined
techniques.
aura of
Her
nobility
sensory
and
abilities
was clearly
exceeded
the daughter
those
of
of
some
some
wealthy
level
clan.
and were able to spy
Perhaps it
on
was
almost
because of the
everything.
special factors in
Before,
the
as she
environment
had
of
passed
this
the sea
region
that they lived
she
in,
had
but their
clearly
skin
felt the
were not
ripples of a
light.
powerful but
Instead,
extremely
their skin was
obscure
green,
energy.
a very
As a
distinct
result,
feature
she
that
rushed over and
differentiated them from
discovered
the humans
Jian
who
Shen
dwelled
and
on the
newbies.
Tianyuan
However,
continent.
her
As
innate
Jian
spirit
Shen
opening
and
technique
newbies
was
studied them,
unable to
they
see
looked
through
back and
Jian Shen
examined
and
them in
newbies.
return. She could feel
However,
that the two
they
people
shifted
before
their
her were
gazes
not as
from
simple
Jian
as
Shen
they
very
seemed at all.
quickly.
The
Their
lady
eyes
hesitated
landed on the
slightly before
gold-clothed
asking,
newbies who had
"Esteemed
long, golden
warriors,
hair.
the Jas
Most
city
of those
is
who
not
lived
far
under
from
the
here.
sea had blue hair.
Also, the
Although
grand
a
auction
minority
held
had
once
hair of
every
other
100
colors,
years is
people
about
with
to
golden
start
hair
soon
had
too.
never appeared.
Why don't the two
Newbies
warriors enter
clearly
the
stood
city
out
with
with
me?
his appearance
All
among the
right,
people
we'll go
of the
in
sea
with the
race.
young lady. Esteemed
Jian Shen
warriors,
agreed readily.
may I ask of your
Jian
purpose
Shen,
here? Why do you want
the
to enter
rather
the city
good-looking
with them
lady
now?
asked curiously,
Newbies
while
sent
her
a
eyes
mental message
constantly
as he
studied
was
Jian Shen
extremely
and
perplexed.
The
Members
two
of
of
the
us are
sea
resting
race
here.
are relatively
Is there
special.
anything you require?
Their sensory abilities
Jian Shen
completely
asked
exceed
indifferently.
my expectations,
Miss,
and they
don't
actually
pay any
discovered the
attention to them.
existence of the
We're
Saint
not far
artifact.
from Jas City now.
The artifact
For
is
the two
unable
of them
to
to rest
conceal
in the
its
wilderness
presence
entirely,
entirely. They clearly haven't
so we
brought enough
can't take it
crystal
out
coins
often.
to pay the fee
As a
to
result,
enter the city,
we can
or
only
they don't have
cultivate
enough
outside,
crystal coins
which
to
is
live
why
in there.
we need to have
With
a detailed
Mrs. Great
understanding
status,
regarding the
there's
sea
no
race.
need to talk to these
Following
lowly
them
people.
undoubtedly
It'll
would be
only
a
be
fast and
depreciating
convenient
Mrs.
way
status,
to this knowledge,
said a young man with a slightly
that
good-looking
seems
appearance
reasonable.
from behind.
I do have some
His
information
gaze
recorded
toward
in my
Jian and
inherited
newbies was
memories
filled
regarding
with
the sea
disdain.
race, but I
He
have
was
no
unable to
idea
feel
how
their
long
strength
ago
at
this
all.
is from.
So he viewed
The sea
them
race
as
must have
ordinary
experienced
people.
some great
Shut
changes
up,
too,
there's
like
no
these
need
sea
to be
soul
so
warriors.
rude. The
I have
lady
no clue
reprimanded
what
the
they
young
are.
man with a slight frown.
Afterward,
The two of them
she
followed
looked
the woman
toward the
toward
Jas
them and
City.
asked,
They
"Esteemed
concealed their
warriors,
strength as
may
they
I ask
enveloped
how many
themselves
stars
with a
do you
layer of
possess
water-attributed
as sea soul
energy
warriors?"
and flew slowly.
Jian Shen and
To the
newbies
two of them
looked
who
at
were
each
both
other.
Saint Rulers,
They had no
this was
idea
as
as
easy
to
as
how to
cake.
answer this question.
As they displayed their ability of flight, it immediately caused a great change in the gazes of the other people. Along the way, Jian Shen and newbies constantly asked vague questions regarding the situation from the lady, gaining a deeper and deeper understanding. Other than the fact that the sea race was divided into 3 factions that they already knew, it was further split up into the inner and outer oceans. The inner ocean was the independent world where the two of them currently resided, separated by a barrier. It was the holy land of the sea race where only highly evolved, humanoid sea race members had the right to enter. The members of the sea race who had yet to gain a humanoid form could only live in the outer ocean. The outer ocean was the world outside the barrier. Not only was the environment horrible, there was a scarce supply of water-attributed energy of the world, and it was filled with seawater. Of course, there were a few species of the sea race who could not take humanoid forms due to innate limitations. As a result, they only needed to reach the 14th star as Sea Soul Warriors to gain the right to enter. Sea Soul Warriors were the cultivators of the sea race. Their strengths were divided into a total of 18 stars. According to how magical beasts were measured, one class was equivalent to 2 stars. First star and second star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to human saints and Class 1 magical beasts, while third star and fourth star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to human great saints and Class 2 magical beasts. Continuing with this pattern, 11th star and 12th star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to Class 6 magical beasts. 13th star and 14th star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to Class 7 magical beasts. 15th star and 16th star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to Class 8 magical beasts, and 17th star and 18th star Sea Soul Warriors were equivalent to Class 9 magical beasts. In the territory of the sea race, crystal coins would form naturally from the water-attributed energy. Not only were they the currency used by the sea race, they were also a crucial object for cultivation. The coins were as important as monster cores on the Tianyuan continent, but the only difference was that when they absorbed these coins for cultivation, there would not be any aftereffects. Other than the 3 halls that divided the world, there were many other organizations of various sizes, existing in the forms of clans or tribes. Other than all this, Jianchen also learned something extremely important. There would often be humans or magical beasts who moved about among the sea race too. They were virtually all foreign cultivators who lived quite close to the region of sea. They would bring in objects from outside to trade with the sea race to obtain what they needed. Although the majority of the sea race did not antagonize foreign humans or magical beasts, there were exceptions. Some members of the sea race were extremely xenophobic, so whenever they saw outsiders, there would often be conflict or deeds of murder and robbery. Even powerful human saint rulers and Class 7 magical beasts were not exceptions to this fact. As a result, if outsiders wanted to move about among the sea race safely, they needed the support of a powerful organization. Jianchen also gained some understanding of the lady's identity. She was the daughter of a clan patriarch several tens of thousand kilometers away and was called Kaya. She had cultivated for over 200 years, and this was the first time she had led a dozen or so 12th-star Sea Soul warriors to participate in the auction of Jas City held once every 100 years. As Jianchen traveled towards the city, the high-ranking members of the 10 protector clans and Mercenary City all gathered in a floating hall in Mercenary City. Everyone, this is the situation. The sea goddess is not dead, and Jianchen fled into the territory of the sea race with the winged tiger god. Let's talk about just what we should do. A great elder narrated the information he had learned from Ling Yuanzi in detail. Within the floating hall, all the other people were extremely stern, with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City being the only exception. The sea goddess was an influential existence from the ancient times. She was someone that matched up to the greatest human expert Mo Tianyun, the ancient winged tiger god, and the war god of the 100 races, Ergens. She was one of the 4 supreme champions that surpassed Saint Emperor. Now that so many years had passed, the war god Ergens had fallen. The ancient winged tiger god and Mo Tianyun had both disappeared. It was extremely likely that they have passed away from old age. They were no longer with them, yet the sea goddess still existed. This piece of news caused an extremely great shock to the 10 protector clans and made all of their expressions become ugly. Yuan Qingzi, is this true? Are you sure the sea goddess is not dead? And that it's not some other expert posing to scare us? Asked a representative from a protector clan. His tone was stern. I'm absolutely certain about this. Other than me, there's also Bai Yifei who witnessed this. Ling Yuanzi growled. He had yet to recover fully from his injuries, so his face was sheet white and ghastly. Ling Yuanzi, are your injuries from the sea goddess? I feel that your origin soul is extremely weak. It has suffered extremely great damage, said a ruddy old man. Ling Yuanzi shook his head. As soon as he thought about this, he felt a wave of shame and resentment. As an impressive 5th heavenly layer Saint King, he had actually fallen to such a state all from a junior who was far weaker than he was. This was a great embarrassment. It was Jianchen. I never thought he'd reached Class 7 as a radiant Saint Master. He paid 500 years of his life as a price to cast the forbidden radiant art, injuring me heavily, Yun from the Changyang clan with and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City both became mixed in emotions. With that, they wanted to help Jianchen very much, but they lacked the power to do so. This was also connected to the winged tiger god. If the problem regarding who the winged tiger god belonged to was not resolved, they could not help Jianchen at all, as this would only intensify the disagreement between the protector clans. It's about time I told everyone this. Yuan Qingzi is right. The sea goddess has indeed not passed away and still remains alive, said Tianjian. His voice was flat and reserved. Tianjian, how are you so certain that the sea goddess is not dead? Tianjian, since you knew the sea goddess was still alive, why didn't you tell us earlier? 2 representatives from different clans asked at the same time. Tianjian replied slowly, many years ago, I fused my origin soul with the hall and borrowed its power to observe the world. I sensed a terrifyingly powerful energy from the sea race and confirmed that it was the sea goddess. As for why I didn't tell you all, do you believe this is good news? Knowing would actually make you all worse off, making you all worry. Chapter 860, Fragment of the Octaterra Map. Tianjian replied slowly, "Many years ago, I fused my origin soul with the Hall and borrowed its power to observe the world. I sensed a terrifyingly powerful energy from the sea race and confirmed that it was the sea goddess. As for why I didn't tell you all, do you believe this is good news? Knowing would actually make you all worse off, making you all worry." Everyone present understood. The news about the sea goddess caused them to experience an extremely great pressure. If it was possible, they would rather not hear about it. Now that Jian Chen's taken the winged tiger god into the territory of the sea race with him, what do you all think we should do? A member of the 10 protector clans said with a deep voice. Many people present became extremely grim. With the Tianyuan continent's current strength, the realm of the sea race was a forbidden zone without any doubt. Even if they united all the power on the entire continent, they would not be able to fend off one of the 4 supreme champions that had surpassed Saint Emperor from the ancient times. Even if they worked with the beast god continent, they would probably still be unable to oppose the sea race. The protector clans were ancient clans that had survived. Why don't we just watch on from a distance if this is the case? There were many records in the clans, of them sustain so they knew about the strength and terror of those who had surpassed Saint Emperor extremely well. I find this to be rather fishy. And we can use the beast god continent to probe the situation of the sea goddess as well. Why have we not heard any news about her even after so much time? Filled with rage, it has even made in the depths of some mountains she already had passed away from old age. Heavenly enchantress, you bitch. With so much for me being so infatuated with you, and yet before their eyes began to twinkle in thought. You actually stopped me from killing Jian Chen. I think that's reasonable. Couple, a wretched couple goddess is still alive. By Jian, why has she kept definitely make profile? The 2 of you regret it. That doesn't make sense. Jian Chen, you bastard. Is she perhaps hiding for something? Or has she always been asleep and has only just woken up so much that you wish you were dead? Has a lifespan of 6,000 years. The sea race? While a Saint Emperor has 10,000. Any of your friends or family with the sea goddess's strength that has surpassed mercenaries into a bloodbath will definitely be even longer. But it's already been so much time. There's a great elder from the Changyang clan. No matter how long her life is, she shouldn't be still alive. You must not act recklessly and remember to never clash with them openly. Goddess's soul that she left behind. We still can't defend the protector clans. If it's just a strand of her soul, weakened voice sounded from within the cave. The people from the 10 protector clans all discussed their views and ideas, said by Jian with bloodshot eyes and ragged breath. Chen at the most crucial moment had already reached. I think she already knows the existence of the winged tiger god blankly out the window in a building toward the main door of the Changyang clan in more urgently than us. Her face filled with sorrow. So there's bound to be conflict between the sea race and the magical beast. Zhu Yun said miserably. In the recent years, she had not taken a single step out of Lore City, awaiting for her son's return quietly. Even she herself no longer had any idea how many times she had said things along those lines. Sigh, there goes another few years. Kong's lifespan is getting shorter too. It's a pity that the world's so big. We can't find him at all. Changyang Zuyunshao also sighed sorrowfully. He felt extremely miserable. The flame mercenaries had also experienced an extremely great change in these 4 years. The original city walls had already been demolished and the construction of a city made out of tungsten alloy had begun too. Under the hard words of hundreds of thousands of workers, blocks of meter-wide tungsten alloy cubes were stacked up, already forming a city wall of over 30 meters in height. After 4 years, the reconstruction of Flame City had reached a third of the way there. Meanwhile, the act of building the city by the flame mercenaries was so great that it shook up a portion of the continent and raised the attention of various powerful organizations. Over these years, Yu Yu and Bai Lian both began to hand down matters gradually to their subordinates, devoting more time to cultivation. Their constitution had been improved much faster than ordinary people, and with the personal guidance from 2 saint rulers, Bai Hai and Jetta Tai, they had already become great saint masters. Ming Dong, Tai Ta, Fatty, Yufeng, Dugu Feng, and others spent the entire time in seclusion. They never appeared, so no one knew just how powerful they had grown to either. In the highest room of a tower at the Huanggu clan, the patriarch stood courteously before a large metal door. Reporting to Ancestor, I've already inquired about it. Your newly accepted disciple, Huang Luan, has reached the 3rd cycle as an Earth Saint Master. She's currently working hard on her cultivation under the personal guidance of the ancestor from the Huang family, Huang Tianba. 3rd cycle Earth Saint Master. This speed is a little slow. If this continues, it'll at least take a dozen or so years before she reaches Heaven Saint Master. It seems it's time for me to bring that girl back. Only when she is by my side will her cultivation speed increase, and only then will she reach Heaven Saint Master in the shortest amount of time possible. An ancient, powerful voice boomed from inside the metal door. It was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. Jas City was deep under the sea in the Sea Race's territory and was a very well-known city in a radius of several tens of thousands of kilometers. It took up an extremely large area and had a great population. It was an extremely bustling city. The travelers beside newbies and Jianchen gradually increased as they reached a distance of 10 kilometers from the city with Kaya. Almost all of them were members of the Sea Race, with long, blue hair and blue skin. However, other than this, they seemed just like the humans on the Tianyuan continent. Jas City is a king-level city. Only Sea Soul warriors beyond the 13th star can fly in it. If the 2 warriors have reached the 13th star, you can enter directly by air and there won't be a need to pay a fee to enter the city. Kaya stared at the 2 of them as her eyes glimmered with interest. Jianchen stared into the distance. Just as she had said, he discovered that every person who entered the city needed to pay a varying number of crystal coins to the soldiers. Jianchen pulled out a 100-year-old heavenly resource from his space ring and said, Miss Kaya, we've used up all the crystal coins on us. Is it possible to use this heavenly resource to exchange for some crystal coins with Miss? Kaya smiled brightly and pulled out a small, bulging bag of money from her space ring. Warriors, here are 100 grand quality crystal coins. Just treat it as a gift from me. Please keep the heavenly resource, warriors. After some silent thought, Jianchen accepted the bag full of coins from Kaya. Since it's like this, then treat it as if the 2 of us owing Miss Kaya a favor. We'll definitely repay it in the future when we get the grand quality crystal coins. Jianchen and disappeared into the crowds. With Kaya outside the city. Do you perhaps know these 2 warriors? Why did you give 100 grand quality crystal coins to them so magnanimously? That's not a small amount, asked a guard in confusion after Jianchen and newbies left. Kaya watched as the 2 of them disappeared into the crowds. I practice the innate spirit opening technique so I can look into certain things much deeper than other people. I believe in my instinct. The 2 of them are not simple. Forming a good tie with them right now might just bring great benefits to our tribe in the future. But, no buts, let's go into the city. Inside Jas City, Jianchen and newbies strolled through its bustling streets. In order to not draw attention, Newbies had already changed his golden hair and clothes to blue on purpose, while Jianchen remained the same. It was approaching the great auction that Jas City held once every 100 years, so conversations about it could be heard everywhere on the streets. Apparently, there'll be a lot of treasures that'll appear in the auction this time. It's drawn in people from many large tribes, so it'll definitely be another fierce battle between them when the time comes. I heard that there'll be 3D level Saint techniques in the auction this time. I wonder if that's true or not. Saint techniques were equivalent to the battle skills from the Tianyuan continent and were just another name for them. The Saint techniques were divided into 4 levels by the Sea race, the Tian level, D level, Shen level and Huang level respectively. The Tian level was the most powerful, equivalent to Saint tier battle skills on the Tianyuan continent, while the Huang level was the lowest, equal to human tier battle skills. There's not just D-level Saint techniques. I heard that there's also going to be a Tian level Saint technique for auction too, but it doesn't seem to be complete. Only 30% seems to be there. There's also liquid mercury in this auction. It's a substance from the Sea of Despair and is created by the world. It's extremely rare and is sacred to the Sea race. With just a mouthful of it, someone with ordinary talent can gain talent that is even rarely seen in 1,000 years. I heard there's also going to be a Class 8 Radiant Spirit Pill for auction. It's from the distant Tianyuan continent and is an extremely valuable medicine for healing. It's worth cities. It's rumored that a fragment of the Octaterra map is for auction. It was left behind by the Octaterra Emperor 10,000 years ago who had reached the 17th star. It's the key to opening the Octaterra Divine Hall. Inside the hall is the Octaterra Emperor's legacy and all of his belongings. There are 8 fragments to the Octaterra map. It's rumored that 7 fragments have already appeared, now all in the hands of the 7 great tribes. Looks like the one this time is the final fragment. Jian Chen and newbies strolled down the streets, observing the local customs and traditions of the Sea race as they listened to the people in the surroundings talk. This Octo-something emperor was actually a 17th star expert. According to how the strength of the Sea race is divided, he should be a Saint Emperor. That's a dwelling left behind by a Saint Emperor. Interesting, muttered newbies as he stroked his chin. An expression of great interest appeared in his eyes. Just as Jianchen wanted to tell newbies to keep a lower profile, Ziying's voice sounded in his head. Master, I've found another material to craft the azulate swords. It's 10 kilometers ahead. Chapter 861. The Mysterious Woman. What? You found another material? Jianchen rejoiced, immediately speeding up his footsteps as he walked forward. Traveling 10 kilometers, Jianchen arrived before a grand castle. He already knew that the material for the azulate swords was inside this castle from Ziying. The Jas auction. Staring at the grand words on the castle, Jianchen realized that the materials for the azulate swords would likely be sold off in the form of an auction. Every material for the azulate swords was extremely rare and unique. It would be very hard to destroy them. Other than the materials with some particular miscellaneous uses, the others were not objects that could be used by people of this world. However, due to their rarity and unique characteristics, they possessed a certain price and were collected as treasures by many wealthy people. Master, this is the holy water of the Spirit Sea. It is a liquid that only forms in a spirit sea after countless years and possesses wondrous effects. When people below Saint King consume it, not only will it greatly increase their strength, it also has the effect of refining their soul, sounded Ziying's voice. He provided a detailed explanation of the uses of the holy water. Ziying, why do I feel like this holy water is something for increasing strength and not for forging items? Jianchen asked curiously. Master, you may not know that the holy water is filled with natural world essence. When you forge the swords, the quality will be greatly increased if you add in the holy water. It can even raise the quality of the azulate swords directly from a low-quality immortal artifact to peak quality. Explained Ziying. Jianchen reached an understanding and thought, this holy water is actually even useful for saint rulers. There must be a lot of people fighting over for it. I need to get my hands on some of this place's currency. Anyway, I can't let anyone else win the holy water. If someone else ingests it, wouldn't that mean I missed an opportunity to obtain it? Although Jian Chen had large quantities of purple coins, they were worth nothing to the sea race. They were completely useless here. Jian Chen, what are you standing there blankly for? Newbies could not help but ask out of curiosity as he saw Jian Chen standing there blankly. Jian Chen looked towards the auction center. There's something I need in there. I need to find a way to get some crystal coins. That won't be easy. You might as well head into the wilderness and rob some people, Newbies said boldly. With that, Jian Chen broke into laughter. Newbies, so much for being a great snake emperor. You actually want to go do those things as an impressive class 7 magical beast. Newbies scratched his head and chuckled. Isn't it just the strong eating the weak? That's the principle for survival in this world. Hearing this, a series of haggard breaths immediately appeared in the quiet crowd. The legacy and wealth of an emperor was a great, irresistible enticement to all those present. Even the members of peak-level clans could not remain calm. Seated within the private enclosure, Jian Chen and Newbies could not help but have their hearts beat faster too. They were already deeply interested in the map fragment, while the patriarch had lost even more control compared to them. The great wealth had already dyed his eyes green with envy as he snorted roughly. However, the patriarch calmed down very quickly, gradually returning to how he was before. He knew that he had no future that would involve the map fragment. The matters regarding it were not something he could delve into. The auctioneer's voice rang out once again. 7 fragments have already appeared. This fragment will be the final one. Everyone, as long as someone obtains this map fragment, they'll gain the right to entire the Octaterra Divine Hall and gain some great blessing. Alright, I won't ramble anymore. As the main treasure for the auction this time, it'll be auctioned off last. We'll begin the auction now. The first treasure is... Afterward, treasures were brought up and auctioned off one by one. The auction was only held once in 100 years, so without any doubt, all of the items were the finest of the fine. Everything brought on stage would institute a battle between many people. Various prices were called out one after another in a vicious battle of wealth. We'll now be auctioning off a ruler armament left behind by a human expert when he passed away in meditation. The starting price is 100,000 grand quality crystal coins. The auctioneer's voice rang through the entire building. Jian Chen and Newbies' eyes snapped open abruptly. They stared in the direction of the stage in interest and watched a machete being brought up carefully by a skimpily dressed servant. It really is a ruler armament. It's a ruler armament left behind by a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. Jian Chen was secretly shocked. Every ruler armament was treated as a clan treasure by the hermit clans on the Tianyuan continent. They were extremely valuable, but he never thought that in the sea, there would be people who would auction off these extremely valuable ruler armaments. According to what I know, only human experts can use ruler armaments. Are members of the sea race able to use them just like humans? Jian Chen thought, before looking toward the patriarch of the Dare tribe. He asked, Patriarch, may I ask exactly what the sea race uses the ruler armaments of humans for? With that, an astonished light flashed across the patriarch's eyes. However, he still provided a detailed explanation. Esteemed warrior, the ruler armaments of human experts are a rare treasure to the sea race. This ruler armament was left behind by a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler after he passed away. Chapter 866. Fight for the divine water of the world. Jian Chen shook his head. Although the crystal coins of the sea race and the purple coins from Tianyuan continent were 2 different currencies, he knew that the ruler armament was sold for too low of a price. This was all because the effect of ruler armaments was not as great to the sea race compared to humans. If it were not for the fact that Jian Chen wanted to save enough money to buy the holy water of the Spirit Sea, he would participate in the auction and buy the ruler armament. Even though he had no use for it himself, The people around him could use it as it was extremely difficult to obtain a ruler armament on the Tianyuan continent. Afterward, valuable items were all auctioned off one by one. Not only were there various pills and medicines, there were also 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. However, these heavenly resources were all sold for a much lower price when compared to its price in purple coins on the Tianyuan continent. This was because purple coins were only made from a metal that was valuable due to its scarcity. The metal's only use was to make coins, unlike the crystal coins that were condensed entirely from water-attributed world essence. They could be absorbed to increase one's strength and possessed an extremely great effect. We'll be auctioning a Class 8 Radiant Spirit pill next. The pill originates from the distant Tianyuan continent and it's a divine medicine for healing wounds. It's extremely valuable. Even heavily injured 15th star or 16th star Sea Soul warriors would only need a second for their severe injuries to heal. It's equivalent to a second life. The starting price will be 200,000 grand quality crystal coins, 300,000 grand quality crystal coins, 350,000 grand quality crystal coins, 500,000 grand quality crystal coins. Class 8 Radiant Spirit pills could only be produced on the Tianyuan continent and only Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could create them. Very few ever made it to the Sea Realm, so their value was obvious. As a result, the price of Class 8 Radiant Spirit pills was far greater in the Sea Realm than on the Tianyuan continent. The single pill was sold for 1,200,000 grand quality crystal coins in the end. Jian Chen squinted his eyes as he sat half-inclined on the sofa. He thought to himself, I didn't think that Class 8 Radiant Spirit pills would be so valuable. A single one was sold for a great price of 1,200,000 grand quality crystal coins. Now that I'm a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, maybe I should create some of them and exchange them for crystal coins too. The creation of the pills might need a sliver of the origin energy of Radiant Scient Force, but the artifact spirit should have plenty of it. No need to waste mine. The intense battle for the divine water had already started. Many organizations who were seated in their own private enclosures had expressed their interest in the water, all speaking their price. Very quickly, the price rose up from the initial 500,000 crystal coins to over 3 million. Patriarch, it'll all be up to you whether we win the divine water of the world this time. Jian Chen looked toward the Patriarch with a stern expression. The Patriarch forced a smile and said, Esteemed warriors, my Dare tribe will do all it can to help you. Right now, the Patriarch of the Dare tribe had no other choice. If he wanted to save the Dare tribe, he could only get on Jian Chen's good side with all he had. Jian Chen nodded before speaking his price, 5 million grand quality crystal coins. Jian Chen increased the price by over 1 million crystal coins in one go, causing the auction to fall silent instantly. Immediately, many people looked in his direction. 5,200,000 grand quality crystal coins. However, another price rang out very quickly that exceeded Jian Chen's 5 million. 5,400,000 grand quality crystal coins. 5,500,000 grand quality crystal coins. 5,600,000 grand quality crystal coins. The price continued to rise. There were still many people from large tribes who refused to give up on this fight. 8 million grand quality crystal coins. Jian Chen spoke his price from his private enclosure expressionlessly. The value of the holy water had greatly exceeded what he had anticipated. He already found it a little difficult to endure as he was now very close to the 10 million amount supplied by the Dare tribe. He could only raise the price madly, to express how determined he was in obtaining the water and to get others to back off. This time, the price was increased from 5 million and something to 8 million. It had jumped by a total of over 2 million crystal coins. This immediately frightening some people, clans, and tribes into giving up the battle for the divine water. The 3 experts of the Menghuang tribe sat on soft sofas in an enclosure opposite Jian Chen's. A protector elder said with a soft voice, "The previous patriarch is already approaching the peak of the 14th star. He's about to reach the 15th, so we need to obtain it." "You're right. Once the previous patriarch breaks through, the status of our tribe will increase once again. We need to buy it and bring it back for the previous patriarch," added the other protector elder. After some slight thought in silence, the current patriarch said, "The voice that increased it to 8 million seems rather familiar. It seems like it's one of the two mysterious experts that the Dare tribe has recruited, so that's even more reason why we can't let them obtain it." "I won't be continuing the battle," the malicious-looking young man said loudly. A powerful killing intent slightly radiated from his body. The 12 million coins were all his wealth. They were only collected with difficulty from raiding many small tribes and killing countless experts of the sea race. He was unable to take out any more than that now. What? That person's actually Xie Wang. It's actually the terrifying Xie Wang who kills without even batting an eyelid. This Xie Wang is just too despicable. He actually robbed me on the way, forcefully taking 100,000 grand quality crystal coins. A hubbub of discussion immediately arose in the quiet auction center. All of them were discussing Xie Wang, while their voices were filled with anger and great hatred. Clearly, this Xie Wang had offended many people outside, but he was extremely powerful, so very few people dared to seek revenge on him. In a private enclosure, the middle-aged man immediately reacted after hearing the name. He muttered, "I never thought it would actually be Xie Wang. Xie Wang's a sea soul warrior at the peak of the 14th star. He's only an inch away from the 15th, and he should be approaching the end of his life. If I win the divine water, Xie Wang will definitely hold back nothing and steal it. Bah, I'm not going for the water anymore." In the Menghuang tribe's enclosure, the two protector elders and the current patriarch also had extremely ugly expressions. "Sai, let's give up. Xie Wang's really powerful. He's reached the peak several hundred years ago and is far beyond the old patriarch. Even if you add the three of us and the previous patriarch, we'll probably only be able to reach a stalemate with him. If we keep going for the water, we'll definitely offend him. At that time, Xie Wang might just kill his way into our tribe and create a great disaster," sighed one of the protector elders. Let's not fight for it anymore. Although the previous patriarch will probably be able to reach the 15th star in less than 100 years with the divine water, we'll probably be ambushed by Xie Wang halfway on the road before we make it back if it does end up in our hands." The current patriarch also spoke out his thoughts. He immediately gave up on the idea of obtaining the divine water. Xie Wang was a loner. He was free of ties and was approaching the end of his life. He no longer had anything to lose, so he could do anything. Let alone the other, smaller tribes, he would even dare to intrude peak-level tribes that had 15th star sea soul warriors protecting them. Xie Wang. The face of the patriarch of the Dare tribe became extremely unsightly. Exceedingly great fear appeared in his eyes. The name, Xie Wang, was like a thunderclap to him. This man was a harbinger of disaster 100 times more terrifying than the Menghuang tribe. I never thought he would also require the divine water so desperately. Warriors, let's not fight for it anymore. The two experts recruited by the Dare tribe may both be 14th star sea soul warriors, but there's still a huge disparity among 14th star sea soul warriors. Xie Wang's reached the peak of the 14th star long ago, and he's only an inch away from reaching the 15th star. The Dare tribe's two experts definitely aren't enough to be his opponent, said the current patriarch of the Menghuang tribe as his face beamed with a happy smile. Jian Chen and newbies had offended the infamous Xie Wang. This was naturally something the Menghuang tribe was extremely willing to see. Not only did the sudden voice shock many people, it even stunned the auctioneer. Perhaps it was due to the fact that he never thought that there would actually be someone who would offend the great Xie Wang for some divine water of the world. The divine water of the world was valuable, but it was not limited after all. Some would appear in the divine realm almost every 1,000 years. Obtaining it would just be another story. It would not be that easy, unless someone possessed great strength or had a fortuitous encounter. 12,100,000 once. Is there anyone else who is willing to pay a greater price? Broadcasted the auctioneer. 12,100,000 twice. 12,100,000 3 times. Sold. I hereby announce that the divine water of the world rarely encountered in 1,000 years has been won by the guests in enclosure number 58. Jian Chen could not help but smile slightly. He had collected another material for forging the azulate swords, which made him very happy. He felt that this journey was well worth the while. If he had not come to Jas City, he probably would not have been able to see the divine water. The auction continued and many other valuable treasures appeared. Another day passed just like this, before the main item for auction this time was finally reached, the fragment of the Octaterra map. Many first-rate tribes and clans had come for this map fragment, so the auction for it was naturally even more intense. In less than 20 minutes, the price of the map fragment rose from the starting price of 5 million crystal coins to over 50 million, yet there were still plenty of clans still battling for it. The price continued to scale upward. Jian Qin did not participate in the battle for the map fragment and instead sat and watched. At this very moment, Jian Qin's eyes froze. He immediately became rather stern. He could feel that many powerful people had arrived outside the auction center. There were plenty of Saint Kings. Jian Qin, looks like obtaining the Octaterra map fragment won't be easy. I can feel the presence of Saint Kings, and there's quite a few of them, Newbies said to Jian Qin through a mental message. His voice was heavy.